Good morning, Vande Mataram, welcome all of you. So, the topic of discussion for this Savitri summarization session is Infinity was her own natural home. So, here we are going to discuss on the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. So, the topic of discussion is for this time is taken from Book 7, Canto 7. The discovery of the spirit, the discovery of the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. There will be a great discussion right now from Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, that is on cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. That discovery we are going to have some focus on it. We will go in detail. In of course, it is a brief discussion, summarization session. So the topic we strictly focus upon, that is infinity was her own natural home. So Sri Aurobindo, to explain it, Sri Aurobindo has quoted three lines at least. Sri Aurobindo, you can write, out of the infinitudes all came to her. Out of the infinitudes all came to her. Into the infinitude sentient she is spread. Out of the infinitudes, from far to near, all came to her, and from near to far, from within to the infinitudes, into the infinitude sentient she spread. Why? What was the relation between the infinity and, of course, she and her spirit? Infinity was her own natural home. Nowhere she dwelt, her spirit was everywhere. So that is a big topic. We are going to take focus upon the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. So it is from Savitri, Book 7, Canto 7, the discovery of the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. So we'll try to go little by little towards. It is of course not a bigger canto. It is almost contented to 6-7 pages. So we'll try to read. Somehow we'll go in depth, go for in-depth discussion. In the little hermitage in the forest hut, where she was staying with all the hermits, Satyavan and Dimochan and all. In the little hermitage in the forest hut, in the sunlight and the moonlight and the dark, all has been described. In the sunlight and the moonlight and the dark, the Delhi human life went plodding on. Human life here in the sunlight, moonlight, and the dark little hermitage in the forest hut. Even as before, with its small, unchanging works, small but unchanging works, not normal as usual, as its spare outward body of routine activity, and happy quiet of ascetic peace. Their purpose is different. They have come for the something, that intention is totally different. The old beauty smiled of terrestrial sin. The old beauty smiled of the terrestrial sin. She too was her old gracious self to men. She too was her old gracious self to men. Of course, he is a newcomer here for this time and into this space, but actually the purpose is not new, her work is not new. The ancient mother clutched her child to her breast. The ancient mother clutched her child to her breast, pressing her close in her environing arms, because she has been coming from the time immemorial, time eternal. So in the beginning, whenever and wherever there was possibility of manifesting a ray of consciousness, I was there. So it has been from whenever and wherever, from the beginning, from the time immemorial, she is here. As if earth ever the same could forever keep the living spirit and body in her clasp. Living body and the spirit in her clasp. Then, as if death were not there, nor end nor change. Nothing is there because she is above all. Accustomed only to read outward signs, everything seems to be on the surface. That's what we can see and, of course, follow and behold. But thing is totally different. None saw it in her, none divined her state, because outwardly, superficially we stay, but none is having that power of piercing, can't rush into the inner state. They saw a person where was only God's past, They saw a person where was only God's vast, a still being or a mighty nothingness. To all, she was the same perfect Savitri. No change, nothing has been done, but everything is happening not on the surface but inwardly. Nobody can know, prove all. She was the same perfect Savitri. A greatness and a sweetness and a light. A greatness and a sweetness and a light poured out from her upon her little world. Greatness and a sweetness and a light poured out from her upon her little world. Life showed to all the same familiar face. Life showed to all the same familiar face. The great line has been lined here by the Mahayogi. Her acts followed the old unaltered round. Her acts followed the old unaltered round. Same way, she spoke the words that she was wont to speak. Only what was necessity for her to speak, and did the things that she had always done. Nothing. There is unaltered round. Her eyes looked out on earth's unchanging face, unaltered round, familiar face. Now also you can find unchanging face. Her eyes looked out on earth's unchanging face. Around her soul's muteness all moved as of the world. Things have been, it is from the time immemorial, from the beginning, it keeps running this way. It is keeps happening this way. A vacant consciousness watched from within. Just since consciousness, how it is vacant consciousness watched from within, empty of vacant consciousness, empty of all but bare reality. There was no will behind the word and act, no thought formed in her brain to guide the speech. Then an impersonal emptiness walked and spoke in her. Something perhaps unfelt, unseen, unknown guarded the body for its future work. Already we have seen heaven guards her for her some mission, guards for some mission child. Already we have seen something here also. Again, it has been described. Something perhaps unfelt, unseen, unknown guarded the body for its future work. It is required, so it has been destined. It is being guarded. Her nature moved in her old stream of force. Perhaps she bore made conscious in her breast the miraculous news. She bore miraculous nihil origin of our souls and the source and the sum of the vast world's event. Everything has been, everything has been prefigured. Everything has been done in that tremendous space, and of course, in a prefigured manner, everything has been done. So only the body left the ego's self. Her mortal ego perished in God's night. Thus was she lost within the separate self. Then we can find later on. So the individual died, the cosmos passed. These gone, the transcendent new meet. The Holy Ghost without the Father and the Son are rest. Like this it has been described. We can go a little bit further. There was some high suppressing secrecy, and when she sat alone with Satyavan, what is the change in our, what is the feeling and realization? When she sat alone with Satyavan, her moveless mind, here now it's because everything has been saturated. She knows, she is all aware. She, in her moveless mind, with his had searched and strove in the hush of the profound and intimate night. She turned to the face of the veiled, voiceless truth. Then again, we can find something unknown, unreached, inscrutable, send down the messages of the bodiless light. So we can go. Her mouth was seized to channel ineffable truths. Her mouth was seized to channel ineffable truths, knowledge unthinkable found and utterance. Knowledge unthinkable found and utterance. Then we can go. Her divine emptiness was their instrument. Inconscient nature dealt with the world it had made. Again, the superconscient mystery through that void missioned its word to touch the thoughts of man. So we can go a little bit forward and we can see. A thought came through, dropped as in an outer voice. Thought as an outer voice. It called not for the witness of the mind. It spoke not to the host, a receiving heart. It came direct to the pure perception's seat. Then later we can find there was no motion in this inner world, no motion in this inner world. All was still and even infinity. In her, the unseen, unknown waited his hour. So, whatever we have gone so far, let us try just to have a gist or summary of that. Then we'll proceed to the further step. That is really brilliant because attainment of cosmic spirit, discovery of cosmic spirit, and attainment of cosmic consciousness. It is a great thing in the process of yoga. So as we know, this is book 7, canto 7, summary of discovery of the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. The daily human life in the hermitage goes as usual. No change, normal as usual. Daily human life. Savitri is her usual gracious self to all. Savitri is her usual gracious self to all. None sees anything new in her. Everything is as usual, pre-planned, prefigured like this. Though outwardly she speaks and acts as always, normally, speaks and acts always, there is a great change within her. Outward and inward, there is a heaven and hell difference gulf is there. A vacant consciousness watches from within her. Vacant consciousness, already we have seen. A vacant consciousness watches from within her. She is impersonal in her movements. Impersonal in her movements, not personal. Some nihil, some mystery seem to act through her. That's why it is described some impersonal. Because some nihil, some mystery seems to act through her. Her mortal ego is no more. Because she is doing nothing. Only everything is done from inside nihil, the mystery. It is being done by the nihil, by the mystery. From a distant vast come messages of light. Distant vast, that's what we can see because we are confined to the limited human sphere. So from a distant vast come messages of light, flashes of thought which flow out, high revealing words when she speaks. From the distant vast come messages of light, flashes of thought, which flow out in high revealing words when she speaks. Her emptiness, already we have seen that great emptiness. Her emptiness becomes a channel for the inconscient nature and the superconscient mystery. Channel for both. In one way, inconscient nature and for the superconscient mystery. Her being is a center without circumstance. Her being a center without circumference. Within her, all is still. Outwardly, we can feel some turbulence, something is there, but inwardly, in the inmost self, everything is still. One night, we see, why as she is sitting by the side of Satyavan, that's what we just read right now, who is asleep, a voice begins to speak from her heart. Sitting near the sleeping husband Satyavan, and of course a voice begins to speak from the heart, and as it speaks, all changes. We have seen mortality disappears, everything all changes. The sense of unreality ceases to be, an experience of a stupendous truth and absolute reality grows. So if everything is still hushed, no ego, everything is vacant and emptiness, already we have discussed. So the experience of a stupendous truth, number two, absolute reality grows. All becomes conscious, reveals itself as the infinity, made of eternity. Everything is changing. The reality is realized as her own self. This reality is realized as her own self, and the self is all. It is timeless and time, bliss, love, and the beloved all-seeing mind. So this is the scenario we will go. How Savitri passes beyond time and space. What is the real change it is coming towards to her like this, where now we can see and we can find and have a glimpse of that further discussion right now. So later will see the next format. Already we have seen sad by sleeping Satyavan. So but now she is sad by sleeping Satyavan, awake within. She is awake within, and the enormous night surrounded her with the unknowable vast. Awake within, in the surrounded by the universal past. A voice to began to speak. Already we have seen. As it spoke, all changed within her and without. If that great change is coming, all was, all lived. She felt all being one. The world of unreality ceased to be. The world of unreality ceased to be. There was no more a universe built by mind. Nothing relates to mind. Convicted of a structure or a sign, a spirit, a being saw created things. A spirit, a being saw created things and cast itself into unnumbered forms. Then a truth in which negation had no place. A truth in which negation had no place, a being and a living consciousness, a stark and absolute reality. There the unreal could not find a place. Unreal could not find a place. The sense of unreality was slain. There all was conscious made of the infinity. All was conscious made of the infinity. All had a substance of eternity. That is what the cosmic consciousness, the feeling, the realization you can feel. No ego, no unreality, everything is truthful. So then you can go later. Yet this was but a same indecipherable. Then we can find it was herself, it was the self of all, it was the reality of existing things, it was the consciousness of all that lived and felt and saw, it was timelessness and time, just now we saw. It was the bliss of formlessness and form. It was the love and the one beloved's arms. It was the sight and the thought in one all-seeing mind. It was the joy of being on the peaks of God. Then what happens later? She passed beyond time into eternity. Passed beyond time into eternity, slipped out of space and became the infinity. Her being rose into unreachable heights. That is the change. That is the great change we can see here. Her being rose into unreachable heights and found no end of its journey in the self. It plunged into the unfathomable deeps and found no end to the silent mystery that held the world within one lonely breast. So all elevation, all enlargement we can find. She was all vastness and one measureless point. She was a height beyond heights, a depth beyond depths. She lived in the everlasting was all. Then we can find life was is then we can find mind was a single innumerable look upon himself and all that he became. Life was his drama and the vast stage. The universe was his body, God its soul. All was a single immense reality, all its innumerable phenomenon. So till now, before going to the concluding remarks and concluding session, we'll try to see. Savitri passed beyond time and space, passes beyond time and space. Again, she is at once the measureless point and all vastness. One, a measureless point and all vastness. She lives in the everlasting. She realizes the universe as to be a body of the real. Realizes the universe to be a body of the real with God for its soul. Universe to be the body of the real and with God its soul. She sees the world as a living God. That is what the process of cosmic consciousness. She sees the world as a living God, the one that is all. She is identified with him in herself. She becomes one with nature and feels the movement of all in nature as in herself. She is no more an individual person, she is all in the world. No more an individual person, she is all in the world. She is spread out in infinity, one with the whole. So let us have a final go for the final point we'll see here in the course here. She knew him as the absolute self-space, Her spirit saw the world as a living God. Her spirit saw the world as a living God. It was the one and knew that all was He. She knew Him as the absolute self space, we saw. Uh, she was a single being at all things. She was a single being at all things. The world was her spirit's wide circumference. The world was her spirit's wide circumference. The thoughts of others, just imagine in the cosmic consciousness what will be the real position and a real point to be marked in somebody who has gained the cosmic consciousness. The thoughts of others were her intimates, others' thoughts were her intimates, their feelings close to her universal heart. Their bodies, her many bodies kin to her. She was no more herself but all the world. Then we have seen, find, nowhere she dwelt, her spirit was everywhere. Infinity was her own natural home, already we have discussed. The distant constellations wheeled around her, distant constellations wheeled around her. Earth saw her born, all worlds were her colonies. Earth saw her born, all worlds were her colonies. The greater worlds of life and mind were hers. Then, little bit further, we can find all nature reproduced her in its lines. Its movements were large copies of her own. She was the single self of all these lives. She was the single self of all these lives. She was in them and they were all in her. So find later we can go. She was a subconscient life of tree and flower. Subconscient life of tree and flower. The outbreak of the honeyed birds of spring. Great. Wow, excellent. Great description. The outbreak of the honeyed birds of spring. She burned in the passion and splendor of the rose flower. Burned in the passion and splendor of the rose. She was the red heart of the passion flower. Again, the dream white of the lotus in its pool, dream white of the lotus in its pool. Out of the subconscient life she climbed to mind. Out of the subconscient life she climbed to mind. She was the thought and the passion of the world's heart. Thought and passion of the world's heart she. She was the Godhead hid in the heart of man. Godhead hid in the heart of man, from which you can really know who she really is. Then you can come to the conclusion in which way you want to adore her, worship her, or you want to trust her and take into your account. She was the climbing of his soul to God. Still more. She was the climbing of his soul to God. Climbing of his soul to God, she is the instrument. She. The cosmos flowered in her, she was its bed. The cosmos flowered in her, she was its bed. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was again after time comes the space. She was space and the wideness of his days. Again I will try to quote it before you. She was time and the dreams of God in time, then space. She was space and the whiteness of his days. From this she rose where time and space were not. Already she is representing time and space, and next here in the course. From this she rose where time and space were not. Time and space, everything has been looked superficially in this earthly embodiment, but actually she is still beyond. The superconscient was her native air. Just try to feel. The superconscient was her native air. Infinity was her movement's natural space. Eternity looked out from her on time. Just imagine about infinity, eternity, that immortality, whatever we have quoted in our terms, how it is related to the mother after getting cosmic consciousness. Then out of this she rose where time and space were not. The superconscient was her native air. Infinity was her movement's natural space. Eternity looked out from her on time. So within a line or within 2-3 lines we'll try to conclude. She was the subconscient life that courses in plant creation. Subconscient lives that courses in plant creation sees the mind and heart in man, not only in man. In the initially, subconscient life in courses that courses in the plant creation. Then comes man, mind and heart in man. She climbs as his soul to God. First in plant, then mind and heart in man, then about the soul, climbs as his soul to God. The entire cosmos in time and space flowers in her. Entire cosmos in time and space flowers in her, sees its foundation. Then last round of discussion, last line we are going to quote here. She rises beyond time and space. Already we have seen discussed. She rises beyond time and space into the superconscient. Beyond time and space, she is slipping into the superconscient and moves in infinity. Rises from time and beyond time and space into the superconscient and moves in infinity. Through her eternity looks from time. Just imagine in which phase really she was. So let me quote lastly the last three lines from where really I started. Out of the infinitudes all came to her, into the infinitude sentient her she spread. Why? Infinity was her own natural home. Vande Mataram.